Futurist Will Stephan asserts that there is not an even history of things getting better. There are critical points in history that force civilizations to do things differently or collapse. He points to the Mayans and Romans and reminds us that the scale of environmental problems is much different than in the past. At earlier times in history, the extent of ecological destruction was local. People coalesced in geographic areas in smaller numbers, and movement to new areas was possible. This is not now the case. There is nowhere to go. The issue of sustainability is now a global issue. If we fail to change the way we operate on this planet, at this juncture in time, there will not be a second chance. Futurist Carlota Perez notes that technology does not necessarily amount to continual progress or change for the better. Finance calls the shots at the beginning of major shifts because they have the resources, but people eventually take the technology and the knowledge into their own hands. This is a global and universal time of shift in the way we think, the way we live. Who will tilt the scale? In what direction? These are questions of policy and questions for the designers of future policies. Mrs. Perez believes that it is possible to save the planet and to make the idea of sustainability, real sustainability, a reality that will create wealth, profit, and health for the majority of the world's people. If the world is not flourishing in 2020, she says, a great opportunity will have been wasted. There is a good likelihood that the powerful interests of finance will not allow for a golden age of shared wealth and well-being, but it is the task of this generation to make it a reality. This is our time to build. The greatest hurdle we face is the paradigm of intellectual laziness, or what Chuck D, a Public Enemy, called the dumbassification of the U.S. nation. Beyond the social hurdles in every city, every state, we are dealing with an education system that does not allow teachers to innovate. We are dealing with the failure of a public education system that is behind the times, largely because the system does not provide adequate resources or support for teachers or schools. We meet the timing of the collapse of our education system with the reality that we will need to keep our education practically constant in order to survive the many paradigm shifts that we will face between the years of 2011 and 2020. Each individual will have to develop the personal wisdom necessary to deal with constant and accelerated changes in science, technology, and day-to-day reality. At this point, young people need to understand that they must take their education into their own hands. They must teach themselves. They must understand that the choice is revolution or failure. Failure means death and suffering for themselves and their families. There is no sugarcoating this reality. Thomas Jefferson said that every generation needs a revolution, but revolution is bloody. The reality of revolution is not a song or a movie or a t-shirt. Revolution does not have to be about violence, however. In many cases, it is not about violence, but ideas, strategizing, and taking action. At this point in history, the most revolutionary thing that you can do is be yourself. Reject and resist the ignorance, violence, laziness, hedonism, and outright stupidity that you are offered by mainstream media. Many young people have in fact chosen to reject corporate media news and entertainment, as well as the misguided and narrow standards of mainstream education. Never before have so many young people been so in control of their own minds, their own ideas, their own tastes, and the possibilities that extend beyond what we are offered by these institutions. If you are building something positive and sustainable for yourself, now is the time to branch out and share your ideas, your vision, your dreams with your peers. Now is the time to reach out to your fellow human beings. Every situation is different. Every potential partnership presents its own set of challenges, and many efforts will fail. But forward movement is dependent upon you and the people you are willing to try to engage with. The time to build 2020 is now. It is about teaching, but also learning, continually playing both roles in every action and interaction as we move forward. Futurist J.P. Rangswamy is the chairman of the social enterprise School is Everything. He explains that education is not really about teaching people, but rather about them learning. There is a fundamental difference. To teach is to indoctrinate, irrespective of good or bad intentions. What we are lacking is true open source education. Education is not about the answers you give, but about the questions you ask. More than ever, we are in need of more questions. Rangswamy says you can give an intelligent answer half asleep. Intelligent questions require at least one eye open. Learning is a state of mind that transcends walls and limitations. We need to advocate for a world in which people are able to implement their passions into their work. Human beings like to participate in the creation of things, and we need variety in our work and our lives. Much of the work that we have been given over the past several decades generates wealth for other people without stimulating our minds, without pushing people to define and develop their own goals. Now is the time to set your agenda and to demand a space for yourself to do what you love and what you are passionate about. The world will not get healthier until human beings get healthier. Human beings will not get healthier until they get happier. Happiness requires struggle and strength. This may seem paradoxical, but this is our reality. If you do not define your reality, your own happiness, someone else will define it for you, within the scope of what they are creating for themselves. At that point, you become a pawn. More and more of our young people are understanding this, and fewer young people are falling into this trap. The innovation of our youth is in fact shifting the way things are done in education, technology, and even corporate business. Old structures and old ways of doing things are failing us and proving that they may not work in terms of human happiness. They do not work for the environment. In many ways, they are not even cost-effective business models because they overextend people's time and ignore the element of human ingenuity. Amidst the collapse of old ideas, new organizational structures are emerging that are more organic, less top-down, and more spontaneous. Additional options are emerging and becoming viable. A window has opened in the world of business and corporate climate. Young people who are seeking to succeed in the business world need to harness this moment and their creativity and advocate for human relationships, true respect for diversity, and more human ways of doing business and interacting in the office space. These shifts can only come from young people who have not already been indoctrinated and trained to view competitors as enemies and consumers as mere tools. Our most creative ideas, models of doing business, and methods of advocating for social justice are coming from our artists. While acknowledging the detrimental and potentially destructive influences of technology, we must also celebrate the many possibilities that it has created for us. Technology in and of itself is not good or bad. It is a tool. It will have the power to control us in the future, but only if we let it. It also carries the potential to help us in carving out new possibilities and creating a world that is connected not through force, but through efforts to genuinely improve people's lives across race, ethnic, social class, and geopolitical boundaries. Futurist and music industry veteran Brenda Walker acknowledges that it is an incredibly fertile time for artists. There is no cap on expression of creativity. This is the case largely because of artists' access to technology. 2 decades ago, it wasn't possible for local, independent artists to produce industry-quality music productions in their bedrooms and basements. It wasn't possible for creative people without large budgets to get their projects, their visions, their worldviews out to people across the world, much less across the state. Those people are accessible. This power now exists within the hands of every online publisher, every human being. Every human being is an artist. Every human being has the power to create something out of nothing. This world, this reality that we have been handed, this is our canvas. Mrs. Walker is excited by the fact that we have not yet seen how creative people will utilize the tools that technology allows. What does it mean to have unlimited bandwidth or unlimited information storage capacity? What does it mean to have access to so many different mediums, to so many canvases, and the ability to share artistic outcomes with countless people? What is the possibility of fusion? These are questions that we are now beginning to answer. This is the power that we now have. This is an opportunity that we will not waste. We see clearly where we have been. We understand where past decisions have taken us. The importance of this moment, well defined, well understood. We have access to all the tools we need. It is time to build 2020.